Dun, 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 dun. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to our continuing review of Secret Invasion. This week, of course, we'll be covering episode 2, Promises. So, spoilers ahead. But no spoiling here with this fabulous guest group that we got going on. Of course, you know him, you love him. We always are excited when he is here. It's Don Willi.
Thank you, thank you. It is so great to be here to talk about this series and this episode in particular. No more words. Roberto, take it away.
Yay, everybody, welcome back. I am glad to be here for episode 2. Looks like I'm the trunk of a tree here, holding up the 2. But at least there's no mattress behind me. I'm not the mattress salesman this week, but I don't have lemonade. I have green stuff to go along with our scroll discussion here today, which I can't wait to get into. So since there's so much to talk about, I will shut my mouth and let's just jump in.
Yeah, let us get in. It is, and of course, joining us in the chat straight away, Silver Surfer. Always great to see you, man, and appreciate the humor there in the chat as well. So, let's get into things. I've got quite a few thoughts, but I thought that we would kick off this week with, of course, Don's summation of this series so far. Don, have you been enjoying this? What are your thoughts of Secret Invasion so far? And then let's get into this week's episode and what you thought of the machinations we got to see.
All right, so the first episode. Oh no, we lost rap. First episode was interesting because it wasn't. It was a slow burn, but it started with making you question who was who, what was what. And we got introduced to what looked like it was going to be a compelling villain. It's like, oh, okay, we got UK's Drake over here. Let's see if he's actually got some chops with him. So, just to see what happened with the characters that they set up and then kind of the turn at the end with Gaia, and the resulting attack and the death of Maria Hill. It was like that last sequence was kind of a gut punch, because Maria Hill's been around since she's been around since the first Avengers movie, and I always hoped that after what was the TV show she was on, that How I Met Your Mother. I always hoped that when How I Met Your Mother got like it finished, that she was going to come on to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for like the last season or two, but that never happened. But now, she unfortunately is no more. And it's a big loss, for us as fans, but definitely for in universe, huge loss for Nick Fury. Like her mom said, she would have followed him to the gates of hell. And she kind of did, because at the end of that episode, when Gravik, sets off his plan, that, like, you see, just this, the little bit there of what a strategic attack can do in terms of destabilizing an entire planet. So that's my thoughts on episode 1. As far as episode 2 overview, phenomenal. absolutely phenomenal. Um, love what they did in terms of raising the stakes and also showing that like this isn't the world that we believe it is. And there are going to be so many questions, so many questions. Um, but yeah, I'm going to stop with my rambling and send it back to you, Darren.
Awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, I've definitely got quite a few thoughts, but I am curious, Rob, what you thought of this week's episode because as we got into it, I know the end of last week's really kind of set you off. It hit hard for you, and I totally understand. Um, and you made some interesting choices in watching this episode. So let us know how did episode 2 work for you?
Um, I mean, yeah, like I said, I tried to watch this episode and I turned it off almost a few minutes in because the residual feelings I had from last week's episode carried over, and I was just not going to ruin my entire day by being mad uh, about how they handled the Maria Hill situation. So I waited till just before we went on pretty much to watch this episode. Um, so while I was able to finally swallow it down, and I mean this is a fantastic episode. This is a better episode than the first episode, um, by far, or at least this is a better chunk of the movie than last week's chunk of the movie. But and my only problems are still slightly logic and plot stuff and some character stuff that I won't go into right now or maybe at all today. But otherwise, I mean, this was a really entertaining episode and it had a lot of great dialogue.
Right on, right on. Yeah, I mean, I will definitely agree with both. Uh, I thought this was a great episode. I would even go so far, Silva, as to say it was phenomenal. Um, it really, to me, kicked off greatly. I thought that it built on the first episode really well. I thought the pacing was a little better. I loved getting drawn into what we're really focusing on is the isolation of Fury, of losing his allies, feeling he's the only one, kind of like everything going wrong up against him. So I really loved how that paced out. And I love how it expands, the Skrull invasion. How many people know that there's a lot of Skrulls here? More than Fury thought. Where they have placed in now, what their next stages are going to be, and we're starting to get some little drops of the expectation is by the end of the series we're going to see a version of the super Skrull, of a multi-powered Skrull, and how that is one of the motivations, one of the drives that's going on. I love the idea of harvesting DNA from fallen heroes or villains or stuff. It unfortunately kind of pokes a hole in the theory that the Skrulls might have Daisy Johnson stuck inside of a cooler somewhere because Quake didn't show up on the list or anything like that. But again, small point aside, I really loved. I like the tension. Like I said, I like the isolation, and we get to end up with a nice other surprise for us. I mean, not total. If anybody paid attention to casting news and things like that, that on the marketing front prior to the show, but still, even a twist in with that. So, yeah, I really like this episode. I'm still this is one of those moments where I almost would prefer them to drop the whole series at once because I so much wanted to see what was next. I just wanted to play the next episode as soon as this one ended. On the other hand, that's why we have weekly releases. So we can sit on this for a week and let it kind of stew in juices and thoughts and ideas before the next one drops. So while part of me would have loved to have binged this, I am still a massive supporter of the weekly drop because we get to enjoy this show and theorize and talk about it for another month as opposed to going through the whole series right now, which I think is great. All right, so let's kick things off. As I say, kind of like last week, I want to do less of a scene by scene and more of kind of a general discussion and focusing on some of the characters and movements and things like that. Though I do think it's important to kick off the discussion with 1997, 2 years after Captain Marvel, and we get a little bit of background on The Promise, Nick Fury's deal with the Skrulls. You help me, I help you. Help us protect the Earth because we got some dangers and such, and Carol Danvers and I will find you a new home. We don't get any more than that outside of the realization that that promise wasn't really kept. And since Fury kind of took off after the blip and hasn't been seen, setting this up, especially for Gravik, who we are introduced to as a younger Skrull in this scene, as that betrayal. You made us a promise and you didn't keep it. And I think they did a beautiful job in setting this up. So, Don, what did you think of how we got to sort of get the table set for this episode and how we are looking at these problems?
I think that they did a brilliant job with giving us the facts behind why, the Skrulls would be now all of a sudden kind of turning on humanity and willing to take over the planet. Um, Fury, it's crazy. I was telling somebody earlier today. I'm like, it's like it's it's his fault, but it's not his fault. Like, you shouldn't have went out and made this kind of deal with a force that is beyond your control. Because when you have an entire species that can mimic human beings down to, what almost seems like the cellular level, and they feel as though they are kind of pressed into a situation because, you know, look, according to everything we know about them, they are refugees. So they're always living on edge as it is. And they have to walk around disguising themselves as other people. How long can you stand having to live a lie? So I think it was just a thing of, here we are, it's been 30 years. Even though Skrulls have long lives, apparently, hey, some of them have died, you know, during all of this, maybe because of just residual effects from the war with the Kree. And, they're looking like, okay, well, yeah, we're stuck on this planet, our people are scattered, and we're running spy missions for some guy. It's not. I'm not sure I signed up for this long term. In fact, I'm pretty sure this wasn't supposed to be long term at all. Tick tock, tick tock. You know what? I think we're done. I'm Since I can't leave, I might as well take this over.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think they did a great job with the setup, and now our realization that, well, that's the choice some people make, or some Skrulls make in those circumstances. Rob, what about you with the kicking off of this episode and setting up our promise unfulfilled? You are on mute. There we go.
Well, that's good because I wasn't saying anything yet. I was like thinking and picking my words carefully. Corny. That was what it was. That was the word I was looking for. There's some corny ass. That was a corny ass scene. But I mean, they needed to have it. Going on with what Don said though, is like, how stupid are the Skrulls? Really? Because why would you? Okay, we've been like planet locked, right? We're not nobody hears the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nick Fury's, right. He doesn't, like Captain Marvel and all this stuff is new. So I just don't know why they would go like a guy who's never been anywhere in the universe versus us, who are this intergalactic warrior class level species that's been everywhere, or a lot further than Fury ever has. Wouldn't they have a greater understanding of the universe than some guy that just says, hey, you know what? Me and this one other person with powers, we're going to find you a planet. And they thought that was reasonable. I just don't understand why they would even entertain that deal to begin with. That's why I said like the plot stuff just kind of bothers me, and it gets so much better after we get past this. So that's all I'm gonna say. Is I thought it was corny. I think the promise in the end is ridiculous, and the fact that like Fury also let Hydra in without his knowing, and he's running a spy ring full of Skrulls, and all this other stuff's going on. I'm like, was this why Hydra got in? Because you were, and with all the spies that he has that we don't even know about, that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't know about, how did all this other stuff happen? Because they weren't always disgruntled, right? Wouldn't they have been around somebody that was like, "Hail Hydra," and he's like, "Oh shit, Hydra's like just trying to recruit me." Like, okay, we just need to get past this scene and I'm fine.
Sure, and I think that's reasonable. I think what we kind of lean on there is Fury's belief that there is a handful of Skrulls that he can kind of move around and do and work with, versus what we find out later to be a much more significant number. But yeah, and unfortunately, this is kind of the problem: is the retconning and stuff, and how are these things able to happen with this new information that we have? And yeah, that is a perpetual comics problem. I'm not even going to try and defend or any of that. Though I do think that it is kind of interesting in a way. This is him stabbing himself in his future back. Is you're going to teach all these guys? I mean, look. Their Skrulls changing forms and stuff is a natural defensive manner for them. It's not like he's teaching them this, but in a way he is. You're going to be my infiltrators and look this and be able to do all these Skrully things, which now that the invasion is happening, they're using kind of like what he sent them off to do against him, which kind of, again, has a perfect level of poetic justice to it, at least from their point of view. But what we kind of set up here, and I'll dwell on him briefly because he's not really in this episode a whole lot, is Talos. We're establishing very much that it's Talos's word that allows this promise to be made. This man whom I trust. And you know how that's not an easy thing for me to say. That kind of opens up. Our big leader, Talos, is vouching for this guy, so we should listen to him. And it's that relationship between Talos and Fury, which, again, established right before that in Captain Marvel, obviously furthering here, and very quickly almost fractured during our little train ride where we get to play the game of tell me something I don't know. Done. Which kind of reveals that there's a little bit more going on. And I thought that was a great scene. Again, this is one of those things that further isolates Fury, but also kind of shines a light. Look, Talos is fighting for his people. He's got one place where he knows that they will be safe until they can find a home. He's gonna invite them in. Now, hiding 1 million people is a big thing, no doubt. But I love this kind of back and forth, especially how Talos is really reinforcing the fact you left. We didn't know you were ever going to come back. And even when you were here, you weren't. Oh, Earth's too heavy for me. I love that line. I can't deal with it, man. Which was great. So let's move on to you. I know I'm skipping over the Maria Hill thing here and so on, which I know was kind of an important thing, and yeah, that gets lost because he's pulled away from Talos to get out of there. But Rob, let's jump on our relationship between Talos and Fury and how it kind of gets a little shaken right here.
You talking about on the train?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I will definitely not bring up that there's definitely more Maria Hill stuff that should be talked about here, but we'll skip it.
Yeah, we'll jump to that
save
in a
on
minute.
time.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to. We can save on. I meant even now, like even this scene, I was like, okay. But the rest of it, I mean, this is where the great dialogue comes in. This is that kind of lulls you into a sense of like, where it's going. We know, like I think the audience knows that Fury's leading to something. I just love the way that this is the best in like why Samuel L. Jackson is so perfect at this character. Is that kind of lull you into, it's the very Jules Winfield kind of telling you a little story before I all of a sudden get to the point that's going to make you uneasy, whether it's a gunshot or an accusation. He's really good at this kind of stuff. And I guess the only thing I didn't like was kind of the questions. I felt like in his story about him and Susie, he was trying to say something to Talos, and that was great. It was like him knowing, like, look, man, this is the way you answer these questions is gonna tell me a lot. So I did like that. I just thought the questions were kind of, the first one at least was, tell me something I don't know about Skrulls. I just thought it was a little. He could have told him I don't know. I'm nitpicking here, but the overall scene was really great because as much as I wanted a little bit more energy out of Fury in this scene because of what just happened, I also understand that I checked myself that like Fury would be in control of his emotions. He wouldn't want to be blubbering and having a fit over Maria Hill right now, like in front of everybody when they got stuff to do. So that's how I got past all that stuff. But these two working together again, like we said last episode, we're getting really personal. And I mean, by the end of this episode too, like it shows how personal this series really is about Fury and Talos and the relationships over, the bigger theme of this invasion. There's all these small, really personal things going on that are pretty much probably going to have a great deal to do with the resolution of this whole thing. And scenes like this show us like we're in good hands as far as this kind of stuff goes. I really do think that despite the rough start that I felt it had, plot, story, character-wise, I think once you push past that, I think they needed to push past some stuff that whether I agreed with how they handled it or not, they needed to do all that to get to the really meat of the story where they can just, really show us stuff. And in this scene also, it gave me hope that that Fury really hasn't really lost a step in my head, and that I kind of think I'm of the mind right now, and I'm maybe I'm just wanting it to be this way, but I feel like maybe he's just messing with everybody in some way to make everybody think like I don't know. I was thinking about Ocean's 12 when I was watching this episode. Because if you think about maybe I don't want to spoil Ocean's 12 for anybody, but if you see in Ocean's 12 in the end of the movie, right, where you think that everything is, how is anything going to work out? But then you find out, oh, that's what I'm starting to get vibes from a little bit, just from how Sam's playing it and how this episode kind of ends. I'm going, he really does seem to still know more than everybody else in some way, that I feel like he's really holding back. But that's maybe just me wishful thinking. But we'll see as we got 4 more episodes left.
Sure. Don, what did you think of Talos's situation here and his kind of little split there with Fury?
So watching that, it was interesting to see the back and forth between the two of them, and their differing ideologies. Fury was right. Humanity has been at war since we could walk upright. And to introduce a new player to the game who has been here that people, didn't know was here, the Skrulls would be hunted to extinction. Like, that's something that Fury knows without a shadow of a doubt. And for Talos, hey, again, as far as we are concerned right now, he is from a planet full of refugees. So not even a planet. He's from a society, a scattered society full of refugees. And so, his whole thing is, hey, you know what? We had this kind of, once in glorious past kind of thing. We were an empire, and now, we basically are being hunted like dogs around the galaxy by the Kree. So anything that we can do to regain some sense of normalcy, so that we don't want to be the last generation of our kind. Whatever we got to do to survive, we got to do that. So it's one of those things where they don't have to be at odds, but they have to be at odds. Like nature leaves absolutely no choice for you in that matter, just based off of our differences. Like, we already have our own differences within our own species. So to introduce an entirely different one into the mix, and then, once people start finding out about what Skrulls can do, oh, they can mimic anyone? Forget about it. We would wipe, beyond just wiping out the Skrulls, we would be wiping out each other. Because at some point, even after you've hunted Skrulls into extinction, you would have conspiracy nuts running around saying, no, the Skrull invasion is not over, and we need to start looking at these people over here. So, yeah, that was just such a heavy scene, because here you have Fury, who's saying like, hey, you know what? I know that there is more to all of this than what you're actually telling me. It's like, yes, I'm Nick Fury. I know a hell of a lot. We all know that I know a hell of a lot. But obviously, there are things about this that I do not know, or else I wouldn't be sitting on this train right now with my, one of my closest allies for the past 20 something years going home in a coffin.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, but
this doesn't happen to
now,
Nick.
yeah, but now, like when you see the end of the episode, though, makes you don't you look at that scene a little bit differently?
I mean, I do, because I mean, well, there's just so many questions. There are so many questions. Um, yeah, I just
Yeah. No, but I think I mean, you get an excellent point. And even Fury says humans can't coexist together. You can't bring in a whole new species. And you're right. If this really got out, there would be a lot of people missing fingers. As we will find out the perfect way to determine Skrulls that Sonia Farnsworth lets us know.
Also, I mean, think about how well kept a secret this is. I mean, 30 years and only the high ups, and maybe one Jethro out in the middle of the Ozark saw a guy once. I don't know. Like nobody has seen these guys. They've never screwed up or anything, and if they have, it's been really like taken care of. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty dark.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but again, Skrulls shapeshift to survive. That's their long-standing thing, as they established in Captain Marvel. So, in a way, it kind of makes sense. And if they were able to find little communities in, depleted uranium mines and nuclear facilities, that does kind of make sense. But again, we do have to kind of make a certain leap of faith. I agree, but to me, it's not a distracting one. To me, I do. Let's touch on the Maria Hill bit, because again, we do get a wrap up of this quite right afterwards, as we get to meet Maria's mom and her kind of face off with Fury, which now he's getting more isolated, and now he's being given basically a mission from mom to not let this be for nothing. But Rob, I know how the whole Maria Hill thing kind of hits you. Did this at least kind of like help cover up like this is going to be a strong motivator for Fury? Or you just like, damn it, we need to move on to the next thing? What did you think of this meeting Maria's mom?
For me, it just reinforced my position.
Okay.
Because she's telling me, she's telling him like, what the hell are you like? Like I said, it's one thing to not, be blubbering and crying about it on the train or whatever with Talos, but I said like, nope.
Just setting there off. Sorry, man.
No. It's a good scene, though. It's a good scene, and it's a really powerful scene. It's just powered even more by my emotions about it. And like like we all know, like you said, that there had to be stakes, and something had to happen. And whether I agree with that handling of it or not, something had to happen. And it's too raw still for me. I'm just like, so I mean, it's working, right? It's getting a response out of me. It may not be the response they want, but I mean, it means that I cared that much about the character, to be questioning their motives and why they did it. Because my thing is like plot and character, certain things. See, I'm doing it already. Nope. So yeah, it was powerful, and justice for Maria Hill. # justice for Maria Hill.
There you go. Don, did you have anything you wanted to throw onto this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's very rare that we get to meet any of these characters' family, right? Um, like they've started doing that more in like the TV series, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, with you know Falcon's sister and his nephews. Um, but overall, we usually don't get to see the people who kind of have to deal with the collateral damage, right? So to have Maria Hill's mom show up, um, you know, and only getting bits and pieces of what actually happened. She's like, yeah, that the pilot over there told me that country owes me a debt that can't be repaid, but they won't even tell me where my daughter died.
Yeah.
Like that would be heartbreaking to be a parent and your child is killed, and you know for the foreseeable future you will never have the full explanation as to how it happened. So like you how can you possibly get closure fully? So yeah, that's or just on that level, like, gonna take Fury out of it for a moment. Just on the parent child level, to me, absolutely heartbreaking.
Yep.
And as for Senor Fury, I can only imagine what it would be like losing a friend, and then having to face that friend's parent and tell them like, yeah, so your child is dead because I made a promise to I made a promise to some people a long time ago, and they were beyond upset that I haven't held up my end of the bargain.
Yeah. I mean, especially the point is, oh, your daughter died because someone wanted to hurt me. And the way to hurt me was to hurt your daughter. I mean, that even kind of like sucks the air out of that even more so, I think.
Yeah, I mean, come on, because basically it's like, yes, like she they killed her just because they wanted to possibly see me cry. Like, yeah, imagine hearing that as I'm like, hold on, what? Hold on, wait, what? I wouldn't be able to process that correctly. Like, thinking about it right now, I'm mind blown. So imagine if I was actually in that position. It was like, what do you mean that they wanted to hurt you, so they hurt her to hurt you? Like, what did my first question, like, what did you do?
Yeah.
What what the f did you do that this is what they thought would be the way to get back at you? Who did you hurt? So yeah,
Well, and they immediately let us know, yeah, it's this alien named Gravik, who has a plan. And that's what I want to kind of jump into right now, the Gravik of it all, because our big reintroduction to him definitely gives him the power to make effects. Because as we get to see in our wonderful news position quick bit right afterwards, 2,000 dead in Moscow, world on the edge of World War III, everyone's siding with Moscow, a bunch of very important faces who end up being Skrulls, the Prime Minister of the UK, the Secretary General of NATO, some news pundit, which was awesome. I love that guy, and assuming a couple of other important people we don't really get in. Those are the really kind of big ones that we get to see.
What about I think also the president of France.
See, there you go. We got large positions of government who apparently are in those positions to help provide stability to the country, to the world. But that's not going to work great when they turn around and name Gravik the Skrull General. And that was kind of a great scene. One point with, I want to talk to you about Gaia and stuff after this. I want to kind of focus more on Gravik, though I did find it interesting Gaia being left out and not coming in. Does she know who, the position of these Skrulls in the council and stuff are or not? The fact that they always give us these little like, are they, aren't they, do they know, do they not know? Again, I think it's done really well throughout this episode, that just raises kind of question after question and motivation after motivation. But this definitely puts the Skrulls in a big position to make a lot of effective change, to really wage war if that is what they are choosing to do so. And while admittedly it's kind of a little overdone in the humans will destroy themselves bit, I did really like Gravik in this scene, especially leading off with the whole, I like dogs. Dogs are loyal. Dogs don't do these things. Dogs don't screw each other over. Dogs don't destroy the planet. Again, it might be a little overdone in some ways. But I really did like this scene, and I liked how it had kind of established how even among the council, this is kind of a new twist and bend, though they all, for the most part, really end up lining up behind him. So Don, let me kick off with you. Skrulls are in a pretty strong position here. Skrulls are in all the positions of power for the most part, maybe even more as we'll get into some other characters in a little bit. But how are you feeling about where Gravik is going with this and what his motivation and what his plan is?
Firstly, I'd like to say there's war coming. Some war coming. It's like, wow. Okay. Yeah. Apparently, yes, there is a war coming. Drake, what are you doing? You were making little love songs and party jams. Like now you're out here trying to plot war. Jeez, guy. Yeah, it was just interesting to see how he just kind of took over, and then to find out it's like, nope, it's not just him taking over. No, people are on his side, and he knows that there's enough sentiment from many in the Skrull population that you're like, yo, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. I'm pretty sure there's probably been a lot about how they once were conquerors. We came from an empire. Uh, I'm pretty sure Gravik would be a make Skrulls great again kind of guy. But he would definitely be the one like, yes, I can make Skrulls great again. Only I can do it because only I have the courage that the rest of these people lack. So, I think he was very menacing for one. His entire demeanor, just gave off, okay, yeah. It doesn't matter what you think, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you're not going to stop me. you you're not brave enough to try to stop me. So just go ahead and submit already. Let me do what I have to do, and we will have a planet with a lot of space, after we get these people to wipe each other out. 1 million Skrulls versus 8 billion humans, but we can survive nuclear bombs and they can't. Think about all the land you could have. I'm just saying, like, this is definitely something where they've shown him to be a brilliant tactician at this up to this point. And there's a physical and psychological advantage that the Skrulls have over humans. So for him, he's like, we can take it over, so why don't we? Like, and anyone who wants to resist, we can kill them. So let's just do that. Let's just do that. So yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm not exactly sure who's supposed to go next, but also shout out to Shooter McGavin.
Oh yeah,
who's now yeah, now I guess he's like a mix between Donald Trump and what's Tucker Carlson or something like that.
sure, yeah.
I guess that's what he was supposed to be, a mix of that character. Yeah, shout out to the guy who eats pieces of shit for breakfast.
He will always be Shooter McGavin. That is very true. Yeah, Rob, any thoughts on this? Especially kind of a little add-on that Shirley gives at the end, which I kind of loved, which was our problem before wasn't our unwillingness to wage war. It's that we were too late. Which I think is a great warning on what the Skrulls, in a way, can do to themselves.
There's a couple of things I have in this scene here. One is, like, what I liked about it was position in Earth terms isn't the same position you have in Skrull terms, right? You're looking around at who's got the more power. The guy standing up saying, I've got NATO, but that's your human thing, not your Skrull position. So it was like a good way of showing us that not all people at this table are considered to be equal either. And I don't know if they ever even gave, I mean, I'm sure if I looked it up on IMDb, they'd have Christopher McDonald's character would have a name. But since I don't think they actually named him on the show, I'm just going to say that Shooter McGavin that's just Shooter McGavin. And they scrolled him. It sounded like him when he was talking on the news show, right? It sounded like something Shooter McGavin would say. So I was just waiting for him. And you know what? Maybe he does eat pieces of shit for breakfast. Because we don't know what they eat. I mean, we know they eat blue stuff, but I mean, as far as we know, that thing he took out of the glove compartment just could have been a blue piece of shit. So, but that seriously though, the other thing that made me think about was, well, first I want to say hi to Rena, Bill, and Silva in the chat because you guys are having a fun time there. I did want to I showed this off earlier a little bit. This is my Alex Ross Super Skrull Fantastic Four cover, just to give you a little extra. Would you trust this face? The other thing is, Talos earlier talked about how he'd been kicked off the council, right? So does that mean that both Fury and Talos know that all these people have been taken over?
That's the excellent question right there.
Because he talks about the council, right? But if Talos does know, let's say he does, right? Because he was on the council. So he's holding back information. Because otherwise, or Fury knows, and that's something that we just haven't had that revealed yet. But to me, I don't think he knows. If he didn't know there was a million of them there, but but the other part of my brain says, but wouldn't Fury really want to know who's on the council? So I feel like that's a bit of a weird spot there. Hopefully that gets resolved in the next, as the story goes on, to let us at least know that he knows that, because that just feels illogical again if that somebody doesn't know this. And then I think that's all I have for this scene.
No, I think that's an excellent question, because it does further get on, and even with later on reveals, is how much can Fury determine who's a Skrull or not? Because there's obviously some people that he knows, but does he know everybody? And has he been around enough to pay that type of attention? But no, I think that's an excellent question, is how far does this go, and how aware of it is Fury, or even of Talos at this point? How long has he been off the council, and what are the positions and changes that have happened in the interim? I do really hope they kind of get into that, because I think that would be fascinating. So Gravik, obviously, this is his position now. He's got the council behind him. He's the new Skrull general. And he heads back to the cheers of his people, and definitely starting to implement another plan. And this is, to me, where things get kind of interesting. Because who or what is Gaia in all of this? She seemed to be kind of helping out Talos before in episode 1, but was that a feint or not? Because as she walks away from the explosions in Moscow, she's with Gravik. She's not like, what the hell, or whatever. She seems very much aware that this was the plan, and it is working the way that it seemed to go. And yet she seems to be spying on Gravik. She's definitely following his guy, and that's where we get into the scientist in the lab. Was it Rosa Dalton? And they seem to be collecting DNA samples from various people. We at least see on the sign we got a Groot, we got a Cold Obsidian, we got a Frost Beast, who was jumping around in Thor: The Dark World at the end there, if I remember. We've even got Extremis from Iron Man 3. So we're starting to get these elements of what could be a super Skrull. And I mean, I don't know, you've got some fire from the Extremis, you've got the kind of almost stretchy of the Groot. And we know, we've seen in previews and stuff, that there's definitely a scene where Gravik throws out very Groot-like. So this kind of makes sense. And I think in a cool way of not making it the Mr. Fantastic stretchiness idea here. And we've got a big glowing machine that we later on find out is to make us stronger. So that's kind of my next. What is Gaia's role in this, do you think? And was Gaia the one who turned in the safe house when she walked away from the car, when we get the Sonya Farnsworth scene later on, to make the phone call, and suddenly the safe house has been turned in? Because we didn't see the captured guy say anything about that, and that wasn't anything that Farnsworth seems to get into. And we'll get into Sonya Farnsworth in a minute. We even got a little eye glance back and forth between Gaia and Shirley when she left the council meeting. And that's where Shirley went and gave a call to Talos about what's kind of going on. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Rob, we'll start this off for you. What do you think Gaia's role in this? Is she with Gravik? Is she secretly with Talos? Is she working her own angle with her own little side group here? What do you think's going on?
God, no. See, that's the thing, is that's the question is like, we can't even get it, really. It's just all mystery here. And it's fun trying to figure out which side she's on, or who's whatever. Is she on her own side? See, the on her own side is even more interesting. But I I was thinking more. I should have brought this up in the last bit, but like Gravik letting Shirley go, knowing full well that she was just going to report to Talos. So, like he keeps laying, like kind of obvious things go, but I really can't say. I really don't have any kind of even guess at where they're going to land on Gaia. I mean, her name is basically like what, Mother Earth or something, right? Like, so I kept trying to think of like something that has to do with that, but I think it's just like symbolic of her being on Earth. But I really, I got to be honest. Like I said, I'm stuttering because I really don't have anything on her. There's some like cliched ways that this could very well go,
Sure.
especially with Gravik being the kind of villain that I see as they're all going to be behind him until he kills the wrong person and goes too far, and then they all, well, no, they all start to turn on him, and she maybe is a part of that. But other than that, I really don't even have a hypothesis.
Right on. Don, any thoughts on the guy a bit? And honestly, Rob, I think the fact that we don't know is a good point because I like the mystery. But Don, any thoughts on you with Gaia's motivation or any of that?
She seems to be a rogue agent to a certain extent, because she does appear as though she is spying for Gravik, but then also spying on Gravik. And if she is spying on Gravik, for whom and to what end? Because we know what Gravik wants. We have absolutely no idea what Gravik wants at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of these things where I'm not sure what her motivations are. I can only speculate at this point, and I don't think any speculation that I could even come up with would halfway do it justice for what it probably actually is. So I'm going to leave it there for myself, uh, Darren.
Perfect. Okay.
You might too.
Well, let's move on to our other kind of special guest star this day. Colonel Rhodes gets to show up today, talk a little smack to some council people, threaten to carpet bomb Slovakia. These things happen. Um, Great kind of introduction. We definitely saw him very much next to the president last time advising. Now kind of stepping in, doing the politics job. New area for Rhodey, who's definitely more of the soldier person. But just honestly, an awesome scene between him and Fury. How there's this kind of breakdown and discussion of trust, of community, of blackness, of where they have come, of who has helped put who into position there. Um, I mean, and honestly, just to me, this is kind of an interesting one because Rhodes is in a very interesting position. And whether or not Fury did or did not help him get there, he definitely seems to be aware of the Skrulls and of their important positions and maybe how many there are, that there may be more. And you would think might be an actual ally to Fury and ends up in the scene, definitely not. As much as Fury is trying to make that connection from where they've both come from to where they are now and how much they often need to rely on each other to do that. And Rhodey very succinctly just cutting the rug out from underneath him, firing Nick Fury, volunteering to fire Nick Fury. Though I think Fury has the top thing on this. Even when I'm out, I'm in. I'm Nick. He almost did like a Rick James bit. I'm Nick Fury, bitch. Which is honestly all I was kind of seeing on that. But Don, what did you think about this scene? What do you think about the kind of dynamics that were going on between Rhodey and Fury? And does this maybe put a suspicion on whether Rhodey is actually Rhodey? Or could he also be a replaced human there? What were your thoughts on this whole bit? Because I thought this was just a beautifully done scene between these two actors.
So yeah, this is kind of interesting because it painted Rhodey in a little bit of a different light to a certain extent. Like, but if you think back on it, Rhodey's always been a government guy.
True.
Period. He's always been, I am a patriot and I'm going to do what I think is best for the country. So to see him kind of towing the line, like, yeah, that's Rhodey. Rhodey has only rebelled when he thought it was going to be bad overall, right? So that's how he wound up getting into it with Ross. But other than that, if he doesn't think it's, like, if he doesn't think that it doesn't line up with his moral compass, then it's like, hey, yes, if it's to protect the country, then cool, I'll do that. And given this situation, right? So here's the thing. At this point, Fury is powerless, pretty much, right? Fury is now a rogue agent. He's got Moscow calling for his head just because he was at the scene of the bombing. And now you have, somebody who he feels is a comrade in arms who is basically reading him the riot act. And yes, this scene is very, very intense, and it also brings up so many questions. But then I had to think about it, right? Just now, as I'm replaying some of the stuff in my head, I'm like, well, I don't think he's a Skrull, and there's a very good reason why I don't think he's a Skrull. That is, if he was, all right, if he was, and he's part of Gravik's plan, then for him to be outraged by the events that happened in Moscow wouldn't make sense for me. Because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool. You drove him right into my hands. I'm just gonna snatch him up and bring him right back to you. They could have snatched up Fury 1, 2, 3, and either cloned him or gave him to the Russians. Well,
yep.
Yeah, there's no need to go through all of what they went through with that conversation. Period.
Well, and he was a little more willing to let him walk away than you think that he might if he was a Skrull. For true.
Right. So, but the question remains: what exactly did he fire Fury from? Because think about it. At the end of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, with the crash of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was just kind of like, all right, well, yeah, Nick Fury is out doing things. He set up a network outside of S.H.I.E.L.D., most likely. But yeah, he's Fury is kind of a rogue agent. Okay, he's building Saber. All right, we know this from you know Spider-Man No Way Home, or not No Way Home, no, Far From
Far
Home.
from home.
Yeah, we know that from the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, right? Um, but what we don't know is like, who does Fury officially work for? Like, what agency? Because what are you gonna say? Oh yeah, Fury works for the United States, and like, okay, but normally on look, as a government employee, normally it says, the specific agency that you work for on your check. So the whole thing about, yeah, hey, he pulled a Vince McMahon slash Donald Trump on Fury, like, you're fired. Like, what exactly did he fire him from? That's the one thing that I'm still unsure of.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's agent, but agent of what? We don't.
right,
Yeah, we
right.
definitely don't know that.
So, yeah. All right. So real quick, I want to just, and this will be my last point on the scene. To touch on the kind of back and forth, I guess, for lack of a better term, hook a brother up kind of thing that Fury was going for. It's interesting to see, the kind of contrast where Fury is almost like, hey, don't you remember when I did this to help you out? Um, or even if I didn't help you out directly, my actions still put things in place for you to be here. You know, like, come on, I'm in the jam, help a brother out. And Rhodey was just kind of like, yeah, nah, listen, I don't understand what this whole help a brother out thing is. It's kind of not what I do. I respect you, but I'm gonna need you to here's a stick with a handkerchief and your stuff inside. There you go. Tell your story walking. Thank you for your service. Be glad I'm not having them escort you to a jail cell.
Nick Fury, hobo of Shield.
Pretty much. So yeah, it was interesting just to see that. And it almost looked like I hate to say this, it almost looked like a Democrat versus Republican debate kind of thing, to a certain extent, or like the uncle that's the Democrat goes to his nephew that's a Republican, and it's like, yeah, nah, man, no, you, like, we might look the same, but we're not on the same team. So yeah, no, I'm sorry, bro. Okay, but no, you're not getting any help from me.
Yeah, they kick to the curb, indeed. Um, uh, Rob, any thoughts or insights on this? What did you pick up out of this scene, and where do you think? I mean, I think Don, you're right. Rhodey has always been more of the military, the structure of way things go, following the rules and stuff of the characters and things. But yeah, Rob, what did you pick up on this?
I mean, everything pretty much has been said. I just had a little bit to add, which was, I'm correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys know it and you can just go bust it out, go ahead and bust it out. But I'm not sure that I don't think I'm almost positive that Don Cheadle and Samuel L. Jackson haven't even shared screen time ever in the MCU, and I'm not sure 100% if they've ever had screen time together. And so for me, this felt like Pacino and De Niro in Heat, where two masterclass freaking actors just go after each other. They just start sparring. And they can't one up each other until Nick Fury says, "Even when I'm out, I'm in," and that's who proves to win that conversation. Age before, the elder statesman put the final, stamp on that. Like, whatever's going on here, you think whatever. And it just was fantastic watching them play off each other. And Don Cheadle's great, and he's been playing this guy pretty well there's no small roles, but Rhodey really hasn't had a chance to shine really hardly at all. We haven't really gotten to see him that much, even as War Machine, to my satisfaction. So anytime he gets to do this kind of stuff, it's great. It's just really, really good. And it just adds more questions. Is he a Skrull? I don't know. He's doing it. He's doing such a good job. He's saying all the right things. He's saying words that would make sense either way. And that's helping the mystery, because he could just be being like, I'm a Skrull and I'm supposed to just fire, Nick Fury, and this just helps our cause. Or he's just being genuine and it fits too. So it's just really good writing in this episode. And this, again, there are several moments like this in this episode of great just scenes of dialogue and people talking. That definitely strikes really good with me. So that's all I got to say about it. It's just really good stuff.
Yeah, I think Silva here in the chat's mentioning not until Endgame. If I'm reading your note here, Silva, right? Were the two of them together? I'm sure they were both at Stark's funeral, but that may have been the first time, because you're right. I can't think of another scene that they were in. I do have one quick question out before we jump on to Sonya here. Now, I know in Infinity War, he was still wearing the kind of leg braces help me walk thing. Was that gone by Endgame? And I also know in Falcon and Winter Soldier, he was walking around in a regular kind of suit and stuff. So we're just assuming that his legs are all fixed at this point. Because that would be an interesting point to go, well, you had damaged Rhodey and then you had fine Rhodey. Again, if you want to throw in the Skrull questions here. But the fact you're right, that they either make us ask questions or have us keep asking questions is a great sign of the writing. But do you guys remember anything on that? No.
So nothing mentioned, but I mean, I imagine, given between Stark tech, Wakandan tech, magic, whatever gadgets possibly from the Guardians, the Asgardians. Yeah, I mean, so at some point, somebody was able to look him up and prepare his mind, let him walk again on his own. Either that, or given Tony's kind of nanotech that he had right before he died, maybe somebody at Stark Industries gave Rhodey some literally nanotech skin tight pants that enable him to walk and maybe even feel again.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, he could have on literally a skin, yeah, like a nanotech skin tight wear that would do the same thing as the bulky braces that he had before.
Sure. And let's be honest, I think we have to stick with the end of Civil War. It's Tony Stank. Tony Stank. Package for Mr. Stank? Sorry, that just jumped in my head, and I have to make the ridiculous comment. All right, we got two little last points to hit off of here. Yeah, Silva's mentioning in chat here, Rhodes was a good military guy until Endgame. That's what you were talking about. Right. When he told Ross to piss off. Was that? I think that was Infinity War, actually, wasn't he? Because that's when it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But you're right. He's always been a very straight military guy and on that side. I do want to touch on Sonia Farnsworth because one, God, man, Livia's just kicking so much ass in this, just shining bright character whenever she's on screen. But I love this scene for a couple of things. One, when Fury warned that she is scorched earth, I think this scene totally laid that out of just how cutthroat and direct that she is. To me, this also settles the question of whether or not she's a Skrull, because she's not. How did she find out this guy has? Cut his finger right off. Okay, that settles that. And then it injects him with something that boosts his blood temperature to 160 degrees centigrade. I don't know what that is. I don't care. I don't even care about the reality of it. It made its message. It's going to melt this guy from the inside unless he talks. And then she just toodaloos right out of there. This was, to me, again, just an awesome, and shows the strength of the forces and the cutthroat level of the forces that are going back and forth on this. Rob, I know how much you love the actress. What did you think of our continuing pursuit from Farnsworth's end?
Yeah, the acting is great. And for brevity's sake, all I'll really say, because yeah, she's just having a lot of fun. That's nice. Because again, when you're an Academy Award winner who every movie is basically like Oscar bait, and then you're on Secret Invasion, it's just like, yeah, great. Thank you for classing up the joint. Because this series has got like lots of really good class act actors in here. But what I liked, and I can't remember, I really don't know if this is a thing or not, but I was thinking about the Skrull physiology and how he's like, go ahead, stick me in the arm. And it's like, did he say that because sticking him in the arm was whatever, because their physiology wasn't going to do anything to him, but she stuck him in the ass. And I was thinking maybe she knows something that would hurt more by their physiology by sticking him there, because he was just way too eager to like, go ahead. Like, it could have been like, go ahead, I'm not going to tell you nothing, no way. But I just kind of find it interesting that she chose that instead, and then it had that effect. And I still think, yeah, she's got to be like, to me, she's the Queen Skrull. So it would make sense, because she didn't kill him. Why keep him alive? Why keep him alive if she's scorched earth? Like, your ride's here. Why? Yeah, like, why? There was a couple of moments like, why keep Shirley alive? Why keep this person alive? They seem to like. And that's, to me, kind of like what's telling to me about a little bit about who's a Skrull and who's not. But what do I know?
Yeah. No, I think that is an interesting point right there. One, she could not care. She may know that what Gravik's going to do, so she doesn't have to waste time. I think, to me, the Shirley bit was just a political move from Gravik's end, is you can't just kill people that disagree with you, especially if they were part of the council. That maybe this is his way to show that he is more pro-Skrull than just anti-human. But that's an interesting point. Don, any thoughts on Sonia Farnsworth interrogation?
I knew it was going to be brutal as soon as she stepped up, and I saw her with, those kind of plant shears. I was like, oh, okay, so somebody's getting chopped up in some sort of way. And then when she's like, okay, well, yeah, everybody clear the room. Oh, and is there an escape hatch to get out of here? Like, um, what? Is there an escape hatch to get out of? Like, why does she need to? Okay, so she, just from her network, I guess she already knew. Like, look, they're gonna find this place. Okay, the Skrulls are going to find this place. I just need to extract as much information out of this one as I possibly can before they find him. So, and then when she goes and blocks the door after it's locked, I was like, okay, she's going to torture the hell out of him, leave him here, and then Gravik and his people are going to wind up coming to get him. And I mean, do we want to talk about that part, like that accompaniment with this as well?
You can go ahead and touch up on that. I mean, to me, it's a very straightforward scene, but yeah, if you wanna hit on that, go right ahead.
Um, Listen, as far as spy thriller kind of action goes, um, this to me was probably top five MCU fights ever. Like in terms of action sequences, top five because it was brutal, it was grounded. Uh, even though we know Skrulls have powers, um, we didn't see them doing any of that. This was straightforward. Like this is what we. If there were an Agents of Shield movie, you would want this kind of sequence to be in there. Um, and the fact that it was so straightforward, nothing over the top or whimsical about it. It was just we're going in here to get our man, and anyone who is in there who is not our man is going to die. And mission accomplished. And very, very graphic. Not necessarily graphic, but more graphic than we're used to seeing for the MCU. Like this sequence borderline the edge of rated R for what we would see in movies because when someone got stabbed or shot, you saw the bullet hit him in the little blood pools. When someone got stabbed, you saw blood splatter. We're not really used to seeing that in MCU properties. So for that to be in there and for them to not kind of downplay the level of violence um, that it was displaying, um, I gotta give my hat off to him just for that for a having the courage to film that sequence, b for Disney to and Marvel to be like, what, listen, it looks good, just let it play out. Because I can imagine a point where maybe just a few years ago where that would have been, excuse me, that would have been entirely watered down. And the fact that we have it in this kind of form where hmm, it's done with respect to the genre and true to the genre that it's playing in. So that's the thing that I really really enjoyed about all of this. And Madam Farnsworth also, if you're talking about someone who in another story probably would have been a villain, but here she is more, uh, I guess, chaotic good. Um, she came in, she was playing absolutely no games, and we get to see why she is respected as much as she is by Fury, because
Yep.
hey, probably what Fury would have done in her position. So what can you do other than applaud this entire sequence from start to finish, and uh, the gentleman yields the rest of his time.
Wow, beautifully done. Beautifully done. I just want to make mentions from the chat. Eric Scott clearing up the translation for our temperature 320 degrees Fahrenheit, for those that don't know what 160 Celsius are. So, yeah, very hot. Definitely in the boiling range, way above that. Bill Casey mentioning that Rhodey was still salty. He wasn't in the original Avengers lineup. That's true. He's probably carrying that around. Um, okay, we got one last little bit to talk about, of course, real briefly, I am sure, because there's not a whole lot to it, but it does raise some interesting questions. And that's that Nick Fury's got a wife there in England, and she's a Skrull. And does he know she's a Skrull? I would assume yes, but I still think that that's kind of an interesting bit, considering that she wasn't Skrull. She was Skrull looking before he showed up, but not once he walked in. And I got to say, I love the bit with the ring. To me, that was such a perfect way to set their relationship. Haven't you forgot something? Walk up, ring finger on, better than some nice smooching for us to wrap things off. And of course, the perfect music, a little tenderness, uh, which was awesome. So I will throw that out to whoever wants to jump on that first. What do you think of our little wrap up scene? Does Fury know that his wife's a Skrull? Do you think? And where do you think this sets us up going next? Whoever wants to jump in. Okay, I'll make one of you.
I got,
John.
I got, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. Oh man, this was okay. So, seeing Fury get in that truck, right? It's like, oh, okay. Obviously, this has been here for a while. All right. Seeing him drive through the countryside in England. Okay. Safe house? Oh, there's a Skrull cutting cucumbers. So that's in the house. Fury is walking into that house. Is that Skrull artwork uh, on the wall? It looks like those might be Skrull paintings or something. I mean, could be human. People make weird kind of artwork, but um, um Fury is married, but she's a Skrull. Wait, does he know? Okay, wait. So hold. Wait. What? Because now it's what has Fury been holding out on? I mean, again, this is the man that Tony said, yeah, he's a spy. Spy. His secrets have secrets, and it's like, okay, did he know that she's a Skrull? And then also, um, did she know about this whole secret invasion? This no, what? That's literally all. It's just like, wait, what? I know. I. Wow. What a way
Adding
to
layers.
Yeah. What a way to end an episode, because there's so much now, like so much that has to be questioned now. You know, um, starting from, does Fury know that his wife is a Skrull? How long has Fury been married? Is she part of this plot at all? And also, like, how, or at this point, with the information that Fury has received from Talos, and given the current rogue status that he is under, and basically being like the world's most wanted man right now, um, can he trust his wife? There, you
Yeah.
know, like there's so much there. I hate to say it, but there's so much there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. That's the way that she ended up. Add the questions for all this stuff. Um, Rob, what did you think of our little wrap up, our episode 2 cliffhanger, I guess.
Um, First, I thought it would have made if we didn't have any context, taken out of context, right? If you just saw this scene, it would have been the greatest. It would have been a great, very last scene for a movie. Like, say, all of a sudden the mystery you think is solved, and then Fury goes home to a Skrull wife, and that's how the movie ends. Like, bah, like what? Or like a post-credit scene or something like that. It would have had everybody going what, like thinking the whole thing. Your brain would explode. Um, but yeah, I mean, it like I said earlier, like it makes you kind of look at a lot of this episode's stuff differently because how much he's holding back, like how all these different questions get brought up. Is she in on it? Does he know? Is he a Skrull because of it? Like, all these different things. But really, it just says to me, it kind of is like Talos and Nick Fury don't know each other as well as they think they do. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it was happening, and it did. Yes, as Silva mentioned in the chat there, of course. I married a Skrull. They did, yeah. That is kind of a ripoff of it, but honestly, it's like whatever little kind of moment they could take from a comic that somebody saw, I'm fine with it, really. But yeah, it makes you wonder. It's just like just when you think it's like freaking Lost at this point, man. They're just piling on the mysteries. It's like hopefully, and and another thing is like if you keep piling on all these mysteries, how can we expect you to pay all of it off in the end? But it just deepens it. And again, we haven't talked about this. These episodes are actual long episodes.
Yes.
So these are really full-fledged episodes. These are HBO long. So we have when we say we only have 4 left, I mean we got like 4 hours left. So close to it. So I feel like they still have plenty of time to answer a lot of questions, and maybe like you said, season 1 question mark, or is it going to just end? It could very just as likely end and be not really the end. That there's going to be how this resolves is going to have repercussions throughout whatever phase we're even in anymore. I don't even know. So, is it 5? Are we in 5 yet?
I think we're in 5 now. Yeah.
This is how bad it's been, folks. I have just stopped paying attention to so much stuff. But either way, our brains are going to be working on this for a week and more because I'm sure that they're not going to tell us everything next week that we want to know from this week. And like I said, I still, my hope of hopes is that this is going to just all of a sudden like roll out like all these things that we could have seen or whatever that is just going to play like dominoes, and Fury's just going to be standing there because we didn't get the eye patch and we didn't get the trench coat. So like we wanted last week.
Yeah.
But it's still coming. So, and after 2 pretty strong episodes that I've only had a little bit of problem with plot, character, and personality and stuff, this is really starting out good. And I feel like I complained less this episode, so.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think this is working out to be definitely in top of these streaming shows, the Marvel streaming shows for me. Definitely in that top group. I can't say whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 yet because we're still in the midst of it, but it's definitely at least top 3 as far as I'm concerned. just 2 episodes in. Because and that's an excellent point, Rob. These are like full hour episodes. We're not getting like the 34-minute thing, and these are very intense. And I hope that maintains, because that's one of the, I think, the annoying things with me with some of the streaming stuff, especially with Disney really sticking with the 6-episode sequences. That you're then going to give us like a half hour, especially with the credits and everything like that. Really undercuts the amount of story. But yeah, these are very chunky episodes. I think this was listed at 58 episodes, so you're talking at least 50 with credits. Last week was like 54 minutes, so that's still almost 50 minutes with credits. So really excited about that. But that's where we wrap things up. That's the end of this week. Nice little cliffhanger. Get us asking some more questions. Any final thoughts before we wrap everything up? Don, definitely want to hear what you're thinking, because I know you're not with us next week. But Mark from Enchantment of Eternity will be joining us, so we'll still get another nice little trio of bits. And I'm really curious how this series has been hitting him. So, Don, any final thoughts, and where can people find you?
So final thoughts. Oh my God. Wow. I hope that there is a way for them to go up from here. Because this was top notch. One of the best episodes of MCU television I have ever seen. And that's across all everything. Excuse me. Across all everything, not just the Disney Plus shows. But either way, this is set up so much. Hopefully they knock this one out of the ballpark, and they're able to have it all make sense and fit within the larger context of the MCU going forward. And hey, hopefully it's not just one season. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at idonwilli. That's IDONWILLI. And you can, find some old videos from when I used to make videos on my channel, Adon of Vice and Fire. Yeah. And otherwise, find me here with these two guys. Whenever they are gracious enough to invite me for a discussion. Anyway, thank you. The gentleman yields his time. Darren, take it away.
Beautiful. Don, we love having you on here. We want to get you on as much as we can. Rob, any final thoughts there?
No, just that I kind of want Don to come back for the finale.
We'll see. Don, if you're available, we'll talk. We'll see what we can get set up.
I will make myself available.
Okay. There we go. Don will return for our finale, folks. We just get here first.
All right. I just, that was my only contribution, was listening to us all talk together. I was like, I think we need Don to come back for the finale. It's too. Because to me, this is kind of like the end of since a lot of people got the 2-episode preview, it's kind of like ending the first episode, really.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Oh, and where you can find me is here. And that's it.
Every week, folks. Every week.
I had some jokes I could have thrown in there, but it's all right. This is where I am right now, folks. You can maybe find me on Twitch at Smirking Rob Plays. That's about it.
Excellent. Well, I do want to give big thanks to our wonderful chat group we had going on today. I'm going to meet you right there real quick. We had Silver Surfer. We had Eric Scott joining us in here. We had Rena Dietrich. We had Bill Casey. Nice little conversation. If you join us in the archives, go ahead and check that out on the chat as you're watching us binge our little thoughts and discussions. Otherwise, thank you, everyone, joining us in the archives. We will be back next week Thursday, 6 o'clock Pacific. Mark from Enchantment Eternity, as I mentioned, will be joining Rob and I to go into the much anticipated episode 3. That's the halfway mark. How much more will we be revealed? We'll have to wait and find out. And hopefully we'll see you all then and there. Anyway, thank you guys so much. And we will see you all next week. All right. Bye-bye.